The opposition New Patriotic Party has made a U-turn on its controversial affirmative action policy. A National Council meeting of the party has decided the policy will be persuasive rather than binding. The policy would have barred males from contesting the NPP's 16 sitting female MPs in the upcoming parliamentary primaries. It, however, appears to be an unpopular move it has had to abandon for now. So what becomes of what many thought was a laudable initiative by the NPP? What will be the fallout? Will the women's rights groups who hailed the policy turn off the female votes? These are some of the questions today's big story will attempt to answer. My name is Aisha Ibrahim.
The NC has directed, the National Council has directed that the National Executive Committee's decision on women's only primaries be stood down. That is, it has been withdrawn.
It all started with the release of guidelines for upcoming parliamentary primaries, which sought to discriminate positively in favor of some groups the party believed had been disadvantaged, so that, apart from allowing only females to challenge the current 16 sitting female MPs at the primaries, the party also asked that only Ga indigents be allowed to contest some coastal constituencies in the Greater Accra region. The protests that greeted the announcement were, however, fast. The party had assured the faithful the decision will be reconsidered, and despite several efforts by women's groups to encourage the policy, the National Council says the party has had a change of mind. General Secretary of the NPP, Kwabena Japon, speaks.
This Wednesday, 1st April 2015, the National Council of the New Patriotic Party deliberated on decisions taken by the National Executive Committee on March 23, 2015. Having discussed and reflected on the various views expressed and the petitions received, the National Council has accepted the principle of affirmative action as far as female MPs are concerned, but however has directed that a comprehensive plan should be worked out for adoption and implementation at the next annual Congress slated for November 2015, at the next annual Congress of the party. In the meantime, the NC has directed, the National Council has directed that the National Executive Committee's decision on women's only primaries be stood down. That is, it has been withdrawn. I want to state that the meeting directed the party to develop a comprehensive policy on affirmative action, as I said earlier, to be worked out for adoption and implementation at our next conference. The National Council is encouraging more women in our party to offer themselves for the upcoming parliamentary primaries. And the Council went further to commend the National Executive Committee for affirming the decision to offer a 50% rebate to women aspirants.
First, the party's affirmative action decision was imposed on the people by the party's leadership. After some internal criticism, now the decision has reversed. How healthy is this for a party sitting in opposition? On the line with me is Dr. Ali Duseidu. He's a political scientist. He will help us answer this question. Good evening, sir. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
How healthy is this U-turn made by the NPP on its affirmative action policy?
Yeah, first of all, affirmative action is not a bad policy. It's a very good thing, especially in situations where minority people or people who are seen, general group who are seen to be weak and need protection. They need that particular policy. But the problem with the NPP's the NPP's affirmative action, it had two important defects. The first had to do with the timing. The second had to do with the method. The timing has to do with the fact that if you need an affirmative action, you don't implement affirmative action just some few years to election, because it is going to have repercussions. Because affirmative action empowers some people to the empowers some people to the disadvantage of other people. Specifically, the type of policy they were rolling out. If it empowers women, they say it disenfranchises men who want to contest those particular constituencies. It has nothing to do with my membership of the party or my credibility or my attributes or my anything that has to do with me. It just has to do with one thing, my gender, which the Constitution didn't. The Constitution itself do not allow people to be discriminated based on their gender. So the timing was ill conceived. And second has to do with the method. It was not a consensus-based sort of thing where majority of the masses of the party were consulted and arrived at that particular decision. I think it was taken politically by neck. So what happens is that even if a situation where the method by which the policy were arrived at is consensus-based and consultative, even the timing might not have mattered because people, all the various factions and interests within the party might have been appeased. Then you roll out such a policy. But it was not consultative in nature, not consensus-based, and the timing was seen to be ill-conceived. Now, if they decide to reverse it and formulate a holistic affirmative action policy document, which will be circulated to all members, people will comment on the merits, there will be effective changes, and then it is adopted by the totality of the party in their next Congress, then that is that is consultative, consensus-based, and will be widely accepted by everybody as compared to what they are doing now. So I think the decision to recall that particular policy is the best thing moving forward.
I would have to hang you on a bit because I have Adjoa Safwa on the line. She's MP for Domikwabenya and she's a member of the NPP. Good evening, madam. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, and good evening to my constituents.
Were you in support of this affirmative action, and how do you feel about this U-turn? I'm afraid we lost Adjoa Safwa on the line. Let's continue with Dr. Ali Duseidu. Dr. Ali Duseidu, you said the time is ill. When is the best time for such a decision to be taken by a political party?
I think maybe usually if you are in power, it is very easy for you to do that because the president will have to allocate positions and portfolios. So you can readily bring women in. But if you are in position, at least maybe maybe 2 years to election or 2 years after election may be a good time. But even at that particular point in time, the procedure is very important. It must be consultative. It must be participatory. And it should not be done to the disadvantage of other members within the party. Seriously speaking, if that happens, then you are going to appease one aspect of your political supporters and membership, and then you displease one aspect of your rank and file and portfolio, membership. So it is a very delicate thing. But if it is done in a way that people are consulted and everybody seems to reap the benefit of such a policy, it's good. For example, if you have said that you're going to allow both men and women to contest in all those positions, but you are going to, maybe the party is going to provide some amount of money to support women candidates who run their campaign. That is also an affirmative action. But you don't do this to the disadvantage of another person. Even though some people believe that money should be given to all people contesting those particular things. But we always know that women are disadvantaged when it comes to contesting for political positions because naturally they are very shy and they don't have that sort of hello.
Yes, I'm listening to you, Dr. Ali.
Yeah, and they don't have that sort of posturing that men put up when they are running for political positions. So it is very good that we protect them, we encourage them to participate, but we don't do it at the detriment of other male contestants in the party. That is not going to help, especially looking at the fact that next year we are going to an election year. If you displace 2 or 3 key members of the party, they also have supporters within the party. And if they don't come out openly to complain, they may develop an apathy, and that apathy will generally affect the gains of the party in 2016. That's next year. That is very close.
Well, let me hang it on 1 more minute because Adjoa Safo, MP for Dome Kwabenya, is back on the line. Good evening and thanks for having you back. I earlier asked you how you feel about the U-turn, if you were in support of the affirmative action by the NPP.
Very well. I want to thank you for the opportunity and to say hello to your valued listeners. Again, I want to take the opportunity to congratulate NEC for the decision that has come up out of this meeting that they had this morning. It is a sign that the NPP is the party that believes in affirmative action, and more also it's the party that listens to its structures, listens to its grassroots, listens to people when they feel that indeed a policy is good for the party, but it is not thinking well with that. So you ought to reconsider it. That is why NEC had to meet this morning to listen to the concerns that was passed from the grassroots. So it's a mixture of both. The party believes that women form or have a role to play in a political arena, and for that matter, there ought to be a policy that will protect women. But again, when that policy was taken at the highest level of our structures in the party, we were picking up certain signals that not too many people were happy with it. Many complaints came. There were lots of petitions that came to the headquarters. And so they had to sit down again and weigh the two and see which one of them would have to be our priority, considering the fact that we have 18 months to elections. And so for me, I think that there is nothing wrong with believing in affirmative action. But again, there is everything wrong when you are a political party and you're not listening to the grassroots. So for what NEC has done is an indication that we are solid on the ground, we listen to our grassroots, we listen to our party supporters. And when they feel that something is not thinking well with them, they are the same people that we need to work with when it comes to election 2016.
Dr. Ali Desaido has just mentioned a few reasons why this decision is ill-timed. Do you feel that the party couldn't have done it better, and do you think this will affect the credibility of the NPP?
I think that it is going to affect the credibility of the party in any way. And my position I maintain is that this policy has been rolled out in a lot of cities, and they have done Kenya to one now. Remember this in Parliament, it's all.
We lost Adjoa Safo once more. Dr. Ali Desaido is still on the line. Dr. Ali Desaido, now the party has realized that the supporters are not happy with this decision and so has made a U-turn. But will this make any difference?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of difference. It suggests that the NPP as a party exists for the people. The main agenda is to win political power and use it to better the lives of the people. So if the people you are going to serve, the people for which you exist as an institution, are not happy with some of the decisions that you make, and they think you haven't consulted them enough, and then you listen to them, it's a sense of a matured institution, people who are level-headed, and people who believe in democracy, participation, and consultation. So I think if NPP recall this particular policy, it will do them more good in 2016 than if they had taken an intransigent position and said, we are not going to listen and we are going to implement that policy going to 2016. That would have cost them a lot. So I think that it doesn't only explain the fact that they are a listening political party, but it also suggests that they put the interest and concern of the grassroots of the party at heart. So I think that is a very good policy, and it may help them next year bridge some of the divide that was going to be created as a result of it, and they can present a united front going to 2016. So I think it's a good decision.
Okay, Dr. Alido, let's listen to the chairman of the NPP, Paul Afoko, who's been explaining reasons behind this decision.
This decision does not mean that the party doesn't support affirmative action. Affirmative action is something that we believe in, and we stand by that decision. What we have agreed is that we are going to go away and make sure that we have a planned program of implementation. Planned program of implementation. That's what we are doing. But we stand by our affirmative action decision and policy.
I would say that this points to another example of the NPP struggling with internal matters, when you should indeed be concentrating on strategizing for the 2016 elections. You spend so much time on this as a party.
We are not distracted from strategizing for the general election. We are not distracted by this. And you can see by the number of people who attended council, by their demeanor when they came out, that we have left this meeting happy and united. It's a shame you were not in there to hear the contributions of the former president, Kufuor.
What do you say?
I'm not about to share that with you, but he spoke to us about power and managing power and how to manage power. And the way he spoke to us, the insights he gave us, the clues he gave us, means that we are really totally, completely united and ready for power. We are ready for power.
Adjoa Safo is back on the line. From the look of things, there was no broader consultation with the grassroots people. Do you think that the leadership could have done that better?
Myself, let me take it from this angle. A typical example of what happened is a situation where the sun drives on the left, and then one morning we wake up and we say we're driving on the road because a lot of people are youth.
Hello, Adjoa Safo. Her line seemed to be giving us troubles, but Dr. Alido Seidu is still on the line. Dr. Alido Seidu, what the NPP is now saying is that this decision is not binding, but it's going to be persuasive. From the look of how things have been handled so far, you think it's going to be easy for them to persuade these people to still toe this line? Hello, Dr. Alido Seidu.
So, people have already resisted it because people had already prepared to contest those particular states. And they have spent a lot of money. And then all of a sudden, there is this huge curtain between them and pursuing their dream, serving the party and Ghana at large, just because they are male or they are men. Let me put it that way. That is not going to help. So if somebody has already prepared, has tested the waters, and see that he has an ability to even win at the primary level and go ahead to contest for the position, then how are you going to persuade him to step down? So I don't think the recall of this policy that means that the NPP don't care about gender or they are not affirmative in nature. What they said is that they are going to repackage a comprehensive affirmative action policy that will go to the rank and file of the party and then be adopted at the next Congress. So that is still pursuing. So what this suggests is that they're just deferring the implementation of a policy that's going to help women for this particular election and then consider it at the next meeting. So that doesn't mean that they will persuade people to stop pursuing their dreams and ambitions if they have already made up their mind that they are going to go for it. I think no amount of persuasion will stop them, unless maybe they promise them something big. If you don't contest and then we win, we're going to give you a ministerial position. But what are the chances that if I know I'm going to win the parliamentary seat, I'll wait for a ministerial position, which might not come if we don't win the election? So people look at the strength relative to the position that they want to occupy. And the fact is that even the appointment of ministers from Parliament according to the appointment of ministers according to the Constitution, largely the majority should come from Parliament. So if you are a member of the Parliament, you even have an added advantage of being selected as a minister or deputy minister than when you are not a member of Parliament. So people believe that becoming a member of Parliament is a huge stepping stone and a leverage to becoming a minister or a deputy minister. And if I think this is the battle I can win, I better fight it on my own and win, than to wait for a political party to get power and appoint me as a minister or deputy minister when they may not get power. So I can become an MP even though my party may lose an election. That one is different from refusing to become an MP and waiting for my party to win the election and then being given a board director or a deputy minister or a minister.
Chairman of the party has just assured us that the party still is in love with affirmative action. It's not like they're not interested anymore. It means that it's something they're going to be pursuing going forward. Going forward, any advice how they can handle this issue to avoid all of these in the party?
Yeah, the first way to getting a board-based consensus on that particular policy is to open it up for participation so that almost every level of the party structure are allowed to participate. People are allowed to bring their input. If this particular policy is formulated, is sharpened, then they ask for people's comments in those particular policies, then the whole Congress of the party adopts it. That one is much better. You see that it is more consultative in nature, consensus built, bridging, and then at the end of the day, the whole party structure accepts that particular policy through the party's congress. That is more encompassing than just the NEC deciding that this is going to be good. For all you know, people may think that affirmative action policy was rolled out by NEC because they wanted to please some elements within the party. And if you want to please elements within the party to the detriment of displeasing other elements in the party, then you are going to create a faction, a huge wedge between even the rank and file of the party. But if it is tabled as if it is geared towards helping the party and marginally excluded groups within the party and Ghana, then people accept it. And I think that it's a good policy. Almost both NDC, NPP, and all the other parties have affirmative action policy one way or the other in their manifestos. Nobody has fought over it. But the action was that it is a good policy, but the processes of arriving at that particular policy was not consultative, was not participatory, and even the timing of that particular policy was a shocker to many people.
Dr. Alidu, stay on for a minute, because the party's presidential candidate, Nana Akufo-Addo, has urged its supporters to remain calm. In an exclusive interview with Joy News, he said though many will be unhappy with the decision, it was taken in the best interest of the party. Let's now listen to him.
The National Council met. As you know, when the decision was taken, there was a lot of upheaval and dissatisfaction, let me put it that way, amongst the rank and file of the party. In the party, we have an organization where we listen. So the National Council listened, decided to meet, to talk about it. Basically, it did two things. It reaffirmed the commitment of the party to affirmative action policy on behalf of women in politics, especially female. The thought that in the circumstances of what was taking place in the party, it would postpone the coming into effect of the decision we took, withdraw it for the time being for a fully fledged policy to be worked out, which will be taken to Congress so that it becomes full-party policy. I think it's a good result for all of us in the party.
One thing that it's not a bit clear is the issue about the Ghana indigents that are being allowed to contest at, let's assume, Accra.
It's been a party policy for a very long time. I mean, all that the National Executive did was to reiterate it, but it has been party policy for a very long time, and it will continue to be party policy.
Would you think that because of the many calls that has come to you to confirm this issue about the affirmation of women, would you think that the women in the party will be a bit disappointed in you for coming to this decision?
Obviously, I mean, you get half a loaf instead of the whole loaf, you'll be disappointed. But I think that is the nature of progress. It's systematic. And the whole of the affirmative program for women across the world hasn't been a question of getting it in one go. It has been a system of incremental, step-by-step. And I think that the NPP has taken a very firm step towards the goal of equity and justice for women in public affairs. And as always in these matters, the NPP is always the first out there in the field. That's why I continue to enjoy and being proud of being a member of the NPP.
So, Dr. Alidu, will this affect the participation of women in the upcoming primaries?
Yeah, I know some women may not be happy, but that will not affect their participation because there were some specific constituencies that they said constituencies where women were already the incumbents. Those were the constituencies that they said they should not allow men to contest them. But all other constituencies that men were incumbents, women were allowed to challenge them. That is unfair. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I still believe that women who think they can beat men, Congress, they have at the primaries, and even go ahead to win the parliamentary seat for the party, can go ahead to do that. A lot of women have, even before this affirmative action policy was brought out, a lot of women had contested men at their primaries. They have beat them. They have beat their opponent or the opposition party or the incumbent party who are men, and they beat them and they become members of parliament. So I think women who still believe that they have the know-how, the skills, and the poetry and everything to contest will still come out and contest. But even this affirmative action will not bring more women to even come and contest unless they were prepared to contest in the first place. But one good advice for the NPP is that affirmative action policies will always face resistance because some people believe that they are it's a bread and butter issue, and they think that is going to be taken away from them. And in all countries that this has worked, there have been persistence, there have been persuasion, there have been collaboration, and there have been consensus building. So the fact that there is huge opposition now doesn't mean that they can't implement it or have affirmative policy going forward. What they can do is that they have to make it more participatory, they have to make it more inclusive, and they have to continue until they get what they want. Other than that, people will always resist. But it's a good policy, and as long as they consult a lot and they bring it out at the right time, I think they are going to get the mass support for it.
Well, many thanks to you, Dr. Ali Desaidu. We're very grateful for your time, and I think it's well noted for the NPP. We'll be back shortly with Joy News Interactive.